Bueno, vamos a empezar con el primer ponente que viene de Inglaterra. Él es Richard Bartle. Es profesor de diseño de juegos de la Universidad de Essex, de Reino Unido. Y además es ganador del 2010 del Game Developer Choice Award del Online Game Legend. Ahí es nada. O sea, es un crack. Es conocido mundialmente por su modelo de segmentación de jugadores. Fue el primero que distinguió, ¿no?, los tipos de jugadores y además es reconocido también por esta nueva industria de la gamificación. Ha venido aquí a hablarnos del mundo virtual al mundo real, es decir, del mundo del juego al mundo de la gamificación. Así que yo creo que vamos a recibir con un fuerte aplauso al primer ponente del día, Richard Bartle. Welcome, Richard. All yours.
Okay, let me just put my drink down there. Hide it. Good. This crashed the machine earlier, so I'm hoping it's not going to do it during the talk. Right, so this is a great venue. Let's hope that that compensates for my talk. Oh, wow, it was a bit quicker than... well, that was a short talk. Right, yes, here we go, right, okay. See, I can see it down in my magic box down here. So, this talk is about adapting virtual world concepts, which is from games, to the real world. And at some point I'm supposed to mention player types because that's why you've heard of me. Gamification is all about converting using game techniques for non-game purposes. But the thing is that gamification is like the real world, and games are not the real world, and they don't really mix too well. Players even have a word that they use when somebody brings the real world into a game world, and that word is cheating. This is Wednesday Addams. Now, I expect at some point you've all been asked, or you've asked yourselves, what is gamification? Have you ever asked or been asked, what is a game? The thing is, there isn't a commonly accepted definition among people who study games as to what a game is. There's lots of competing definitions, but they all have flaws. My definition, which also has flaws, but I'm not going to point them out to you, obviously. This is what I think a game is. Play is what happens when you freely, because you can't be made to play something. If somebody's pointing a gun at you, you're not playing a game, you're playing not being shot. Knowingly, you can't play a game without knowing you're playing a game. You can be a token in somebody else's game, but you can't actually be playing it without knowing you're playing it. Bound your behavior, what that means is that there are things you would normally do, but you decide not to do them, according to a set of rules. So you decide not to do the things you normally could do because there are these rules, in the hope, which means you might win but you might not, of gaining some benefit. Benefit is normally fun. I'll just be calling it fun here. That's play. The difference between play and games is games are play at which you can lose. And it's lose there rather than win, because there are some games you can't win. You can't win Tetris, you can't win Space Invaders, you can't win Dungeons and Dragons, but they're all games. Nevertheless, they've got a goal, and the goal is to avoid losing for as long as possible while having fun. Now, the first part of that, talking about play, that encapsulates what game theorists call the magic circle. The magic circle is one of these things where if you are a games theorist, you will be thinking, why is he talking about that? Because lots of games people don't like the magic circle as a concept. I'll be using it as a shorthand for a non-real state that players will themselves into believing is actually a real state. In other words, there's this situation that they imagine would really like to be true, but they know it's not, but they will themselves to believe it's true. Like when you're reading a book and you know that really the aliens aren't invading, but if you will yourself to believe that they are, then the book becomes more useful. It's like that with games. If you will yourself to believe everybody else is following the rules and playing with you, then you get this magic circle. So your magic circle is when you believe that everybody else is following the rules. So you start to play a game, you're going to follow the rules. If everybody else is following the rules, that's a magic circle. While that holds, you've got a game. But if something happens that stops it from holding, then you haven't got a game. So if you're playing football and suddenly one of the players breaks their leg, well, okay, that's reality has suddenly come in. You have to stop the game because you can't really play with a broken leg. If you spot somebody not following the rules, then for you, the game is over. It's all fun and games until someone loses an eye, then it's just fun. When you're a kid, you're playing with fighting swords with sticks. Great until you get one in the eye, then it's the game over. But that's because reality has come in. Now, if people... fallen off the bottom of the slide. If people assert that they are playing a game, or pretend that they're playing a game, and you've seen them breaking the rules, well, from your point of view, they are cheats. Now, oh yeah, that was supposed to be a picture of a man drinking water, but he's not there. That isn't a joke. There really is supposed to be a picture of a man drinking water there. Oh well, I guess there's some reason for that. Okay. That's going to spoil my later joke. Okay, so gamification isn't games by definition. I mean, gamification is a lot of things, but it can't be games because it takes things out of games deliberately to not be games. But why isn't it games? If you look at the definition of games, what makes gamification not games? And originally, my slides here were an hour long and went into details as to why not. But since I don't actually have an hour to speak, I'll just give you the details as to where it differs. And it differs because game players bound their behavior by choosing not to do things that they could actually do. So in real life, I don't shoot lasers from my eyes because I can't. If I could, I would be, you'd all be dead. But when I'm playing a game, I don't move my rook diagonally in chess. Not because I can't, I mean it's easy, just move diagonally. But because I choose not to. And in choosing not to, that means that I'm now following the rules of the game, and while if the other player is also following the rules, then we have a game. If the other player moves the rook diagonally, then we don't have a game. But gamification doesn't have this boundedness. People don't agree to follow a set of rules that they could otherwise follow. Players are still bound by rules, and there's the laws of the land and the laws of physics prevent you from doing things that you may really, really want to do, but they're not bound by any rules of play. So they don't choose not to do some things as a condition of engagement. Now, that doesn't mean to say they can't. They might decide that they're not going to do something in order to get a better experience. For example, if you've got a system where it delivers some story content to them every so often, they could look it up on the internet to find out what happens, but they might think it'd be better if they don't. This is why people who were watching the Game of Thrones series recently were all shocked when something terrible happened, even though it was all in the books 5 years ago. And it turns out the books are spoilers. People will deliberately keep to rules if they've got some sense of why they're gamifying. So if, for example, you're trying to lose weight, then you will tend to follow the rules because you know that you're doing it yourself for some end game. But you can still participate in gamification or gamified activities without having to bound your behavior. You can do whatever you like, and it's just a case of will the results come at the end. Right, now, people who are playing a game, or just in general, with other players, are making a social contract which says that they will bound their behavior according to the rules, and If they keep to that, then the game's fun. Now, gamification isn't play, even though I will continue to refer to everybody who engages in gamified activities as players, because it's a much shorter term than people who engage in gamified activities. But people, they don't agree to bound their behavior. If I was playing on, I don't know, let's say some kind of air miles, travel points or something, and I found some way that I could get lots and lots of points by buying them on eBay or something, well, I would, if I wanted them. I'm not agreeing not to do so. And this fact that you haven't agreed with the other players that you're going to follow the rules is where the game and reality boundary collapses. So gamification is all reality and no magic circle, no game space where people are all moderating their behavior to follow a set of rules. If you break the magic circle in games, that's called cheating because you're breaking trust. Other players are playing on the basis that you're going to follow the rules. You don't follow the rules, we call that cheating. But it's perfectly fine in gamification because you haven't signed a social contract or agreed to moderate your behavior, so you can do what you like. There's no trust to be broken. Now, this suggests that you can't cheat in gamification or a gamified activity. However, it is true. You can't cheat, but from your point of view, other players can. And I shall explain this. Too big. There are actually three types of rules in games. There are physically unbreakable rules. I cannot kick the ball through the goalkeeper because goalkeepers are not permeable to balls. There are written rules. If I foul the other player, the referee will award a free kick. And then there are unwritten rules, which are actions against the spirit of the game. So if somebody were to pretend that they'd broken the leg, everybody thinks the game's finished, and then they suddenly leap up and kick the ball into the net. Ha-ha! Well, no, that would be ungentlemanly conduct against the spirit of the game. Now, unwritten rules are the ones which are most at risk of being gamed. I've given two examples here. One of them is picking up litter at school. This is what I did as a kid. Every summer, the school playing field was covered in rubbish from people just dropping stuff. So we'd all get out, we'd all have to stand in a line, we'd have to go along and collect rubbish. And whoever got the most rubbish won. Well, turns out that if you take a piece of paper with you and tear it into small pieces, you can get lots of pieces of rubbish. So that's what I did. So I won. Picked up the most rubbish because I created the most rubbish to pick it up. The other one, the lose weight by drinking water, this is where the company decides that everybody should lose weight, and they decide to award a prize to the person who loses the most weight. So how do you know somebody's lost the most weight? Well, you weigh them, you wait 2 weeks, and then you weigh them again. So, knowing that you're going to be weighed, if you drink 5 litres of water, and then you get weighed, and then you race off to the lavatory afterwards, and then 2 weeks later you don't drink 5 litres of water, and you get weighed, then you weigh 5 litres of water less, 5 kilograms less. You've lost 5 kilograms. You win. And you've done no effort at all. So the unwritten rules are the ones that are at risk. No one said you can't drink 5 litres of water and then not drink it next time and lose that amount in weight. But nevertheless, it's kind of against the spirit of what the activity was about. Now, important fact comes in 2 parts. Each player has their own set of unwritten rules, which they do follow. So even if you're following something which doesn't have any written rules, you've got your own rules which you'll follow. And you'll expect everyone else to be following the same rules. Whoa, what happened there? I'm sure. So, what are these different rules like? Well, each rule depends on what each person is getting out of the activity. In other words, what they're finding fun, whether that's extrinsic or intrinsic fun. And that means it's time for player types. Hooray. There's supposed to be a picture of shoes there. They were quite good. I spent ages looking. Yeah, I spent ages looking on the internet for those shoes. Took me ages, and they've not shown. Some kind of Apple PC up there. I can just see 4 apples in a row. Right, so different players have different ideas of what the unwritten rules are, and these tend to clump around player types. So breaking the rules of one player type is cheating, but only to people of that player type. All the other player types will not see it as cheating, and they might not even understand why it would be seen as cheating. And this can cause friction between player types, which, if you like drama, is good, and if you like paying for the customer service of dealing with drama, is bad. Now I'm going to give you 4 examples here, all to do with personalized shoes, not invisible ones. So, every pair of shoes you buy gets you a shoe point, and if you get 50 shoe points, that entitles you to the special personalized shoes. Okay, well, achievers will see those shoes as a trophy that they have won. They would be horrified if you could just buy the shoes, because that would be like just buying a PhD or a world record. And I've spent all this time buying these stupid shoes just to get these rare and unique ones, and then somebody else just comes along and buys them. They don't like it. But non-achievers would see nothing wrong with it, because they don't regard it as a competition. They just say, well, if I have to buy 50 pairs of shoes, well, why can't I just pay a bit more and get them earlier? So achievers like this, but non-achievers would want to go around the back and buy them secretly, and well, not secretly, but without doing the activity, and then the achievers wouldn't like it. Here's another example. If you buy a combination of 6 secretly related pairs of shoes, you qualify for the special personalized shoes. So it might be all the shoes that have got green heels, or all the shoes that have got a picture of a cat on them, or all the shoes that have O as the 3rd letter in their name. Whatever it is, there's some secret combination which, if you buy it, you are entitled to the special personalized shoes. Now, explorers would love that, because they'd love to figure out what the common features might be. And they would be horrified if cheats could go on the internet and just find out what the combinations are. Oh, I just need to buy that, 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 and that. Oh, I don't know why, I'll just buy it. Now I can get the special personalized shoes. So the explorers are going to be upset at that. It's like giving away the ending of a movie. Non-explorers see nothing wrong with it. They could solve the puzzle, might take them a day, but if somebody else has already solved it, why bother? There's a 3rd example. If 50 people like your comments in the shoe forum, you qualify for the special personalized shoes. Now, of course, socializers would love that. They'd go online, they'd critique shoes, saying they're rubbish, saying they're good, saying they like the artistic content of the shoes. They'd make wisecracks, they'd engage with each other. They would be horrified if people just swapped likes regardless of actual merit. If a group of people just went on and said, look, I'm just going to like all your comments if you like all mine. Yeah, okay. Well, that would be like buying a reputation. Socializers would be horrified. Anybody can just do that. And yet the non-socializers see nothing wrong with it, because if they want the shoes, they want the shoes. They're just, if what I have to do is to jump through a hoop of getting liked 50 times, well, I'll just find a bunch of other people who also want to jump through that same hoop, and I'll just like theirs and they'll like mine, and we'll get the shoes. Here's a 4th example. I wonder if you can guess which one this one's going to be. Here's a photo of me kicking a beer can in my special personalized shoes. Here's a video of me burning those shoes afterwards. I bought the special shoes that you want, and I ruined them just to annoy you. I feel so good. In case you think this kind of thing doesn't go on, I think it was the iPad 2. There was a big, when they were launched, there was a huge queue outside a place in Los Angeles to buy them. And this group got at the front of the queue by getting there 3 days early. They went inside, they got the Apple II, they came out and beat it up with a hammer in front of all these other people who wanted that Apple. But they beat it up because they didn't like Apple, and they didn't like people who bought Apple, and they did like hitting things with hammers. So this sort of thing does happen. It's a minority, obviously, because you don't want to have to pay however many $100 it is for something to smash it, but I'm sure it felt good if you're a killer. Now, killers would be horrified if they were banned from the shoe forum because it's restricting free speech. But to everybody else, they see nothing wrong with it, and those who live by the sword die by the sword. So, again, you've got one group that's got their own set of rules, which other people would just ignore. They don't see it as cheating, but the killers would think it would be cheating if their fun was stopped. There are some other forms of cheating that don't fit in here. Some of it's accidental. It might be that you wouldn't have smashed up the fancy shoes if you knew it upset somebody else, but you didn't, so it was just accidental. Sometimes cheating is caused by frustration. People have got they're being asked to do something that's so hard that although they're willing to do it, it's too hard, so they try and cheat. Or sometimes they cheat because it's so easy that it's boring, so they try to make it more interesting. These three don't really apply to gamification that much because you can't generally cheat in gamification. The other kind of cheating, metagaming, isn't cheating in gamification because gamification is reality, and reality isn't meta to reality, so that's not cheating either. Now, the virtual and the real boundary is a problem for games and gamification, and an opportunity. It's a problem because things that work in the virtual world, the world of the game, may not work in the real world. But it's an opportunity because things that don't work in the world of the game may work in the real world. So things that games don't have because the players would think it was cheating or unfair, you can have in gamification because the players might not. But the other way around, things that work in games might not work in gamified activities because they only work if the magic circle holds. And if people aren't following rules, then they're not going to work. Players occupy both the virtual world and the real world because the virtual world is the magic circle they have in their heads. They bring reality into virtuality. That's cheating. They bring virtuality into reality. That's magic circles. So, to conclude, gamification comes with unwritten rules just as games do. These rules only exist in players' heads, but they do exist in players' heads. You need to be aware of and to account for them. Player-type models, I mean, I've just used mine because I know that one, but there are lots of others, and there's bound to be a better one out there already if there isn't one in development. So you've got two things. You don't just give people what they want, you have to make sure you don't give them what they don't want. So far, all I've ever seen in gamification is people being, oh, if you want to attract these players, you give them this, this, and this. I never see but you don't do that. That never seems to come into it. If you want to use a model, whatever your model is, you have to understand it. And the key point in successful gamification is the same as for successful game design, and that is know your players. And that really is the end of the talk.
Thank you, Richard.
You're welcome.
¿Tenéis alguna pregunta? ¿Alguien que levante la mano? El más atrevido. Y así rompemos el hielo. Mira, ahí tenemos uno. En el centro, ¿lo ves? Y lo dicho, concreción, para agilizar un poquito esto.
So I'm just seeing what the critics were saying.
Fine, everything fine, don't worry, Richard.
Yeah, you got someone editing them out. Yeah, sorry.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for changing the world when you create the first multiplayer game in the University of Essex.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And I'd like to ask you about this concept of the magic circle, because I think we are all the time playing, and we are all the time creating a lot of kinds of micro magic circles. And then I think that's a contradiction with you spoke to us just now. Don't you think about we are all the time playing, all the time using our own roles, or on a lot of contexts or different contexts using micro roles and micro magic cycles?
So you're, I'm not sure I understood what you were saying there, which is a way of saying I didn't understand what you were saying there. But from what I think you were saying that there's a contradiction between what we're doing. Yeah, gamification isn't like a game. It's the word before cycle that I'm not understanding. What are you saying, the word?
Círculo
Magic
mágico, magic
circle.
circle.
Right, okay, yes.
Circle.
Yes,
Sorry.
right, okay, magic circle. Right, sorry, yes. Okay, yeah, gamification doesn't have a magic circle. Real life doesn't have a magic circle, but when you're playing a game, you do have a magic circle. As I said, this is a problematic term for people, for game studies, because the magic circle isn't real. I mean, it's obviously not real. But nevertheless, it's a space which is in which people agree to limit their behaviors. Things like if you go to an ice hockey match and people start hitting each other with sticks, that's normally if you hit somebody with a stick, you'd be arrested. But in an ice hockey match or a boxing match, if you hit people, it's allowed because the people agreed to do that in order to go in within certain limits. So in real life, yeah, there isn't no magic circle, but when you're playing a game, there is. Psychologists call this a frame. It's a framing problem. If I were here dressed, I don't know, as Cleopatra, the Egyptian queen, you might think that I was a little strange. However, if I was in a Shakespeare play, playing Cleopatra, you might still think I was strange, but not in the same way, because everybody else would be dressed as Egyptians, and in Shakespeare's plays, men played women's parts. Okay. Well, so the context makes a difference, and it's like that with games. When you're playing a game, if you're following the rules, you could be doing whatever you wanted to. I mean, in playing chess, I could take your king with my queen on the first move, but it wouldn't follow the rules, and you wouldn't play chess with me anymore. Am I answering the question? I'm not sure.
There are rules when you are in your job. There are rules. Indeed.
Yeah.
When you are in front of a jury, for example, defending your PhD, there are rules also
Yes.
There are a lot of micro magic circles on
yes,
all those contexts.
Yes, there are lots of rules. You're following the rules because you want the outcome. But in a game, you're following the rules for no reason other than it's going to be fun. If you want to do a PhD, then yeah, I mean you've got to follow the rules, and you've got to do everything and jump through all the hoops that they ask you for. But you're not doing it for fun, although hopefully you will actually like it, since you'll be spending the rest of your life doing that. But you're not doing it for fun, and you're not limiting your rules in what you're doing in arbitrary ways. I mean, I can go into more detail about this, but I don't think I probably have time.
Maybe in the coffee break,
Yes.
do you think it's a good idea if he approaches and maybe you can
Yes.
have a longer chat? ¿No? ¿Te parece bien que después y así continuamos con el congreso? Así que un fuerte aplauso. Thank you very much, Richard.
Okay.